Welcome to the GHQ Crew podcast, where golf meets laughs, legends, and a little bit of chaos. Before we dive into our swinging stories and banter, a quick heads up. The views expressed here are entirely our own and do not necessarily reflect those of the fine club companies we represent. So grab your favorite beverage, kick back, and let's get ready to tee off on a wild ride through the world of golf and beyond. Let's go.
Welcome to the GHQ Crew podcast, where before you quit, come and get fit.
That's a good one.
That's a good right. That's a good one. That's a good one-liner.
Turner, we usually put people on the hot seat there and make you come up with one. I'm sure you could have come up with a good one. I just think it might have had to have been censored.
Yeah, heavily censored in my opinion.
Clinton, we have a most special guest today.
We do have a special guest.
Former PGA Tour player, Saboba Classic champion. There's probably some more that I'm just not, but we had a cool poster of you in our repair room that you took away from me. And I don't blame you for taking it home. You should have. Ladies and gentlemen, Jared Turner is in the hot seat today. How are you, man?
I'm good. I'm good. This is going to be fun.
Yeah.
This is going to be fun.
Yeah. So, let's just dive right in. Tell me, because you have an interesting little past in terms of where you grew up and everything like that. So when did you get going in the game of golf?
Somewhere around 14, 15, 14. I grew up in the Middle East and played soccer. And I was probably a little too fat for soccer when I was 14, to be fair. That got a little tiresome running up and down the field. So
Who wants to do that?
Nah, it's terrible. So we were on our way back from the Middle East, coming back to the States for good. And we stopped off in Torrejon, Spain. And my parents had some friends that were in the military, and I was on a base in Torrejon, and I didn't have anything to do. I've been 14 years old, almost 15.
Now, was your dad military?
No, my dad worked for Lockheed, General Dynamics.
That's right. Okay.
So they're like, "You want to go to the golf course?" I'm like, what is that? I had no idea. I mean, I may play putt-putt or something before, but I didn't know.
You'd never even heard of the game.
No, I mean, I not really, no. I mean, I didn't really realize what it was or what it wasn't. And so my parents dropped me off there, and I'm in tennis shoes. I rent clubs. They get me some golf balls, and they're like, "Bye." And I'm like, holy shit, what am I supposed to do here?
Yeah.
So I walked 36 holes that day. I probably lost 36 balls along with it, but I fell in love with it from that point. I mean, I get home and I have blisters all over my feet, all over my hands. I don't know how to hold the club. I had no idea. I went back the next day, played 36 again. I'm like, wow, I kind of like this, but I still wanted to play football when we got to the States. Like, I didn't really care, but so that's the very first interaction with golf. Because I think my dad played, but we lived overseas and there was no golf courses at the time.
Right.
In Egypt and Turkey, there was no golf courses. Now there's a bunch of them, but so I didn't really understand anything about it. But just being out there and chasing golf balls was kind of a cool deal.
So what was it? Do you think really, I don't know, drew you in, sucked you in there? I mean, like I said, you had no reference, right? It's just you and some clubs and 36 balls, and I'm assuming you had to buy some more the next day.
Yeah. There was a bunch more bought the next day.
There was a bunch more. Mom, out of golf balls.
Yeah, they didn't care. It was like an easy daycare deal for them.
Yeah.
I really don't know. I really can't tell you.
Yeah.
I knew it sucked me in somehow. And I don't know that I hit a good shot or a bad shot at any point in time. Like, I can't remember the round. I don't remember anything. All I remember is that my feet were killing me.
Yeah.
It's all I remember. And I was 14. So if you have sore feet at 14, you did something.
Yeah, something's weird.
Yeah.
That's so crazy because I told a story not too long ago on here and see if this relates at all for you. I mean, I remember one of the moment that I completely said, man, this is awesome. Golf is awesome. I was at Ross Rogers Golf Course, Ty Cox, Ty real well. And I was out there, I was working. Actually, I had not started working there yet. And I too picked up the game kind of late, but I just teed off. It's first thing in the morning. I was the first kid off that day.
Dew sweeping.
Dew sweeping. Exactly. The dew was out on the grass. And I remember I stopped because my ball was in the trees as usual. And I stopped right in the middle of the fairway and thought two things. One, man, I wish I could hit it here. But two, man, this is awesome. It was quiet, little chill in the air, dews everywhere. You know what I'm saying? The smell of the grass. That for me, and I'm a bit of an introvert away from all of this, right? I just am.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
And it could just be me.
That's it. That's the way I was.
Yeah.
That's the way I think that's what the thing that gravitated me the most to the game was that it was me and me alone.
Yep.
I didn't have to really depend on anybody.
Yep.
But it was my own doing or undoing, whichever way it happened. But it was on me, and I could go work harder at that point to get better.
I think what's really cool, and it'll help us segue, because man, one of the things I'm most excited about this episode on, folks, if you don't listen to another episode in its entirety, you listen to this one, because whether you're beginning in the game or you've been playing for 30 years, you can get something out of listening to this guy. But dude, you weren't even keeping score.
No.
You didn't even know how to keep score. It was just playing golf.
That's it. Nothing.
You know, there's it's so special.
Yeah, I don't know that it
that
happens that
regard.
way anymore.
No,
To be fair,
no.
I don't know that generally. I think kids love the game or like the game,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know that it's the same as. I mean, I'm 49 now, so this was 35 years ago when I did it, and I just don't think it's the same anymore.
How crazy is that to say?
That's terrible.
But you know, I've noticed this about you. You still think young, man.
Yeah, I mean, I do, because at the end of the day, that there's still another a little bit of a carrot out there that I would like to go and try to chase a little bit, but it is, but it isn't. Like, I don't feel young when I wake up.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like it used to be. I can go practice for 3 or 4 or 5 hours now, and I wake up and go, oh shit, I probably shouldn't have hit 400 golf balls today.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a terrible idea nowadays.
It is, but again, if you feel like you want something, you better go dig it, or else it's not going to work for you.
Yeah.
Because there's just nothing's going to be handed to you.
Mm-hmm. So you get back to the States.
Mm-hmm.
You're 14 or 15 at this time,
Mm-hmm.
and you and your parents moved to Dallas?
No. They we lived in Azle, Texas.
Azle, Texas.
My parents bought 20 acres in Azle, Texas, and built a home. And I went to Azle High School.
Well, looky there.
Yeah, it's a little small town.
How many people were there?
I mean, at the time there was 20, 30, maybe 20,000 maybe.
So kind of a small
But
town.
it was definitely a culture shock, because I grew up in a third world country, right?
Yeah.
And so you move to the States and you're like, you just think things are different than what they are. And I had come to the States during the summer and did different things, but we moved to Azle. And I remember going, Diamonds was a grocery store there. And we walk in, and about 3/4 of the people didn't have shoes on, or a shirt for that matter.
That's interesting.
It's very interesting at the time. And this was in 1989, I think.
89.
Yeah. And so I'm asking my mom, I'm like, is this normal?
Are we on Mars?
Yeah, that's what it seemed like. It was
Yeah.
very, very, very strange. Anyway, great people, but it was a country mentality. It was not anything different than it was as kind of rural as rural could get, I guess.
Yeah.
So it was very interesting to actually be a part of that.
So the other day we had Big Les on, and you were in his wedding, right? I mean,
I was.
Y'all are like big buds, and
Yeah, so I was one of his best mans at his wedding.
we talked about his talent and how he
Super talented.
if it wasn't for this, he probably makes it.
Yeah, I've always told him if you could unscrew my head, put it on his big ass body with what he's able to do, being 6'8" and athletic as he is.
Yeah.
That boy could do whatever he wanted in a game of golf.
Yeah.
I mean, because even now, I mean, he's still very good. He's super, super talented.
Yeah.
But he doesn't think like he should on the golf course.
Right.
Anything else he does, it's very strange.
Mm-hmm.
Like business and you know, if he's buying a car, whatever he does, singing, I mean, whatever he does, it's totally different mindset.
He sees all the angles.
And he knows how to play them.
That's right.
And he gets on the golf course and he's like, I mean, we played yesterday out here and I mean, he's hitting it by me by 40 yards. I'm like, this is stupid.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, but again, he's a smidgen younger, but he's also 3 feet taller than I am and longer arms and all this other kind of good shit. So, I mean, it's supposed to happen that way, right?
Sure.
But it's kind of demoralizing, really.
Yeah. Well, it's also works in reverse because, I mean, you can guarantee, folks, if Les Lettingham comes back in here and he wants a new driver, it's because of Jared.
Yeah, it's because I got close to him.
It's because you either knocked it by him or you were too close to him.
Yeah,
So.
I mean, we kid around and pardon my French, the dickish comes out in me.
Yeah.
After we were done, he's like, God, I blew it by you all day long. I said, yeah, that's great, Les. What did you shoot?
Yeah, that's right.
I said, I think I clipped you by 10, but some good drives you hit out there, Pods.
Yeah, that was really good, Pods. So, yeah, that's what I want to dive into because, man, we had so I brought Les up. He was on that other podcast, but I was telling him about this very thing. You know, the dickish part of you, right? I was like, oh, yeah, Jared can be a dick, but I've always just loved you to death, man, because I did get to know you up here one night, one-on-one, and we did have that conversation as you were gripping clubs. The old pullback method on the
I'm pretty
tour velvet.
particular about the grips on the clubs.
Yes, sir.
I know there's a couple of guys in the shop that look at me like I was nutso. But I wouldn't let them touch the grips.
Sure.
I didn't want them to do it.
Mm-hmm. To this day, who can do them?
There's a few people that can do them. I'm not near as anal as I used to be.
Yeah.
I'm still pretty, like, I'll do most of my stuff. I mean, I have my whole setup, I have my whole setup in the garage.
Yeah.
And when I come out here and if I need something done, I mean, you and a guy named David Ritchie, that y'all mentioned on the podcast with Lester, over at Artisan, David and I go way back. I knew him when I was 14, 15, starting out the game. He was a club repair guy and very, very good. There's very few people that can do it the way I like it. It's close, but you can give me a club, and if it's got 3 wraps, I'll tell you if it's got 3, if it's got 2, if it's got 1, and if it's a 60, if it's a 58, I just know exactly what I want to feel in the left hand, and I know exactly what I want to feel in the right hand. And so it's one of those things that's your contact to the club. And if your hands aren't on there right and it doesn't feel right, then you're not really starting off properly.
Have you always been, would you say that particular in terms of that kind of thing? Because I guess when you were younger, your options are limited in terms of some of that. But
I really wasn't early on because it's funny when I won on the Nationwide tour, I had built that set of clubs, that driver, the wedges, all that shit in my garage like 3 weeks before. So, I've been tinkering for a long time. Sure. So, and at the time I know how to do club repair, but I didn't really care what it looked like. Now I have more of an aspiration of making it look good, like it's supposed to look.
Sure.
But I had glue all over the place. I'll never forget. McKay looked at my bag and goes, "Where did you get this shit?" I'm like, "Pods, I built this crap in the garage before I came. Actually, I built it before I went to Midland. And we can go through all that story later, but I built them before I came to Midland to play in the Nationwide tour event." And I'm like, man, I wanted to try this shaft because it felt really good. And then UST had sent me some shafts, so I wanted to put it in the driver, so I did. And anyway, the rest is history from that point. But yeah, at the time, I didn't care, nor did I I knew what I was: a 3 in the left and 4 in the right build up. Okay. Pretty much my whole career. Mm-hmm. I was always a guy that kind of got a little handsy with it, but I think that's why the wedges in the short game was always so good for me. wasn't a long hitter, but so I wanted to feel that mostly in the right hand because I wanted to slow it down just enough to where it didn't get too super active on me.
So you had a bag full of Kelly Grunwald clubs.
Hell no. I mean, my arms aren't, I mean, that Popeye, I mean, he is so strong.
Yeah, but I'm saying like, dude, some of his clubs.
No, but even to this day, mine look way better than that crap.
Okay.
No, he got shit everywhere.
It's unbelievable.
He's got tape coming out of the end of the grip. He's got epoxy. His ferrules are never turned. I mean, it's some crazy stuff with Kelly.
It's bad.
But I tell you what, real quick, probably the best driver of the golf ball.
There you go.
And I played with a bunch of guys, played out there for 10, 12 years on and off, nationwide, buy.com, Corn Ferry, PGA Tour, whatever. Probably the best driver of the golf ball I've ever played with. As far as distance at the time, right? This was 2006-ish through 14?
Yep.
Somewhere around there.
Mm-hmm.
Probably distance and accuracy, probably the best driver of the golf ball I ever played with. Still to this day. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, he's 54 now, I think. He's a little older than me. He's got a 96 gram graph shaft and a driver.
Yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
It's
and he just pounds it. He goes, Bud, it's just a sledgehammer.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, no shit, because I can't even swing it. And he gave it, he goes, try to hit this. I mean, it's like I can't hit it 200 yards.
Yeah.
But anyway, it just, the meat hooks on that guy.
Oh, it's
crazy. His paws are huge.
I've always said this about Kelly, like, I don't want to take a swat from him.
No, I think he would twist.
If he got mad, I'd be like, I'm sorry, man. We're good.
I don't know that he could apologize to you because you might be dead.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm just being honest. I mean, if he got a hold of you in the worst way possible, that poor, he is massive.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, what's interesting about that, I mean, dude, you've played with some studs. And by the way, you're not the only person that says that. I mean, obviously the amateurs around here, they all say that he's the best driver of the ball.
Sure.
But dude, multiple people that I would hold in higher esteem like yourself have said the same thing about Kelly.
Yeah. No,
he's just a phenomenal driver of the golf ball.
Phenomenal.
Can't putt.
Yeah, I mean, that's,
had a little trouble there. But
that's been his MO, and he'll admit to it. I mean, he's not. I mean, when you play golf for a living, you know your strengths and your weaknesses.
He sat right there and said it.
Yeah, I mean, he'll admit to it, and obviously it's gotten probably a little worse as he's gotten older.
Yeah,
the nerves get a little much more, but I mean, it was an impressive display, and it was week in and week out, and it was like, damn,
yeah,
it was good. It was really good.
Well, so I want to really dive into this, man, because that night we were up here doing all that. You know, I remember looking at you, and I was telling this story to Big Les when we had him on just a few weeks ago, and I said, "Man, Jared can be a dick."
Say it in the voice that you said it on the podcast, because I feel like you guys have a little tone when you try to mimic.
Oh, you mean when you talk about it like this? Like, oh, I don't like that. Nah, I ain't gonna hit that one. Yeah, that's our go-to when you're out on something. We'll give it the Turner, the Turner. Nah, I don't want that. That's a piece of crap.
Yeah, okay. I see how you guys are now.
Well, I mean,
that's okay.
You do sound kind of like that.
Yeah, I don't know how I grew up, where I grew up, and it was Azle. I'm going to go right back to Azle.
Yeah.
No shoes, no shirt. And I get this country accent that I just have not, it's never going.
You grew up in the Middle East.
That's what I'm saying. How do I have an accent?
I don't know. Well, if you're around enough of us bumpkins, from Texas long enough, it just kind of
apparently I have. Apparently 35 years of it, and I sound like I grew up in the backwoods.
Yeah. Well, okay. So my favorite thing about that night is, and dude, all joking aside, I mean, it came from a very awesome place for me, because if there's anything for me with people in general, it's to, I don't know, kind of a discernment thing, like just being able to tell who people kind of are just right off the rip.
Mm-hmm.
And man, with you, there's some enigma there in the sense that, you have this edge, right? You have this edge. And what I mean by that is you can tell you're competitive
Yeah.
in pretty much anything that you do.
Yeah, but I'm not very good at anything but golf.
I mean, in business, you've done very well.
I'm being athletically,
Right.
let's just say. Yeah.
But you played soccer,
Yeah. Fat kid. Again.
football.
I wanted to play football, but
Yeah.
I was 5'10", 210 pounds as a freshman and not much fat on me.
Linebacker, baby.
I was a linebacker, and these coaches at Azle were salivating. They're like, this dude's going to be 6'6" and a monster.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never grew another inch.
We're done.
We're done here. Actually, it's funny because I dislocated both shoulders and a hip my freshman year playing football. So I played linebacker and I also played fullback. And dislocated both freaking shoulders, not at the same time, and a hip. Like running through the line, somebody grabs my leg, and I'm like, "Get off me, son of a bitch!" And dislocate my hip. So it's like I went home. I'll never forget. This is like almost at the end of the deal. I'm like, I'm so done with this.
Yeah, we're
Because
done.
this is like some painful stuff.
Yeah.
And I went to the coaches, and I'm like, I played soccer, so I was like, I'll either kick because I was a kicker too. So I played 3 positions. I was like, I'll kick too. You know, I can kick field goals, kick off, whatever. And they're like, no, you're not doing that. You're either going to play linebacker or you're not going to do shit. I'm like, okay, well, how about I don't do shit?
That's right.
And then that's when I started
I'm
playing.
gone.
That's when I started playing golf, like full-time golf. Like, okay,
Right.
I'm good.
So when you got back from, so let's back up a second. You had your first rounds when you got to Azle or when you were in the Middle East?
So obviously in Torrejon, Spain.
In Spain.
Yeah, but when we moved back, I would go out with my dad from time to time and his brother in Bridgeport, Texas, which is another hillbilly town.
Yeah.
Which I love and know a bunch of good people there. We would go out like on the weekends and here and there.
Are you still renting clubs at this point?
No, my dad gave me some knockoff stuff. I think I had a set of Wilson K28s from Walmart.
There we go.
He went and bought them for me. And I'll tell you a quick funny story is he was going to play golf one weekend and he's like, "Bud, this is an adult deal." And I was pissed. And he was in the garage, and my dad was a very stern man, right? Like, I mean, it was belts until I was old enough to where I could grab the belt and say, "We're not going to be hit anymore."
Mm-hmm.
And I deserved every one of them, mind you. Loved it, kind of. But anyway, so he's in the garage. He's like, "Bud, this is grown up deal."
Mm-hmm.
And I threw a tantrum, and I picked up my clubs, and I threw them in the trash can, and I said, "Fine." Storming out. Well, guess who came right after him? After me. Yeah. Kind of got a little bit of trouble for that deal.
Mm-hmm.
I never did that again.
Mm-hmm.
But that's when I think my dad knew that I was like serious and I wanted to do it.
Yeah.
As much as I could.
I mean, he probably had no idea that 14-year-old in Spain on your way back to the States fell in love with the game the way you did.
No, and I was 15, so I mean, it's not like I could get in my car and go do anything or go practice.
I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like maybe that's step one of kind of, when again, going back to that night you and I were up here, you said, "Bud, I kind of had to have that. I kind of had to have that chip."
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, when I'm saying this, it's not a bad thing.
You mean it in the nicest way possible. Well, dick.
Yeah. I mean, I think that you have to have an edge.
Yeah.
Especially to get where you got.
You
do, man.
It is. I mean, and again, it's not a gloat situation, but I wasn't the most talented kid, and I knew that.
What was your first round?
108.
108.
District tournament. I was fresh. It was so it was in May, or it was in, I guess, April, May, or whatever, my freshman year. And I was carrying this big ass staff bag. That's all I had.
No stand on it.
No stand on it, nothing.
Awesome.
It was just full of junk.
Was it brown leather?
It was, you know what? No, but I think if I remember right, it was like green and white leather.
Yes.
I mean, it was like vintage stuff at the
Master's bag, really.
And I'll never forget. I mean, I literally shot 108. I was on the B team.
Okay.
In high school. And, but I was pissed, but I wasn't pissed because I was like, I know for sure that I can do better than this. I mean, I was hitting them all over the place, right?
Nowhere to go but up.
I mean, you would think after 108, it's like, should you even be still doing this at 108?
Yeah.
So, it didn't bother me to the point to where I was like, I'm done with this crap. I can't do this anymore.
Now, at your size, relative to the other kiddos back then, right? I mean, 5'10", 210.
Yeah.
You know,
sure.
Not much fat on you.
Mm-mm.
Could you hit the ball a lot further than the rest of them relative?
Yeah, because, I mean, this was wooden clubs, right?
Yeah.
I mean, literally. I mean, then I had a McGregor M85 Iomatic with a Kevlar insert.
Come on.
And if I got a hold of it properly, it was fine, right? And it got better as I got older, and I got longer as I got older. But it, relatively speaking, I could hit it, but I had a zero clue where that thing was going. I mean, zero clue. I mean, it could go high right, it could go low left, it could go dead straight. I didn't have an idea.
Well, to this day, I would tell you have some of the best eyes and hands that I've ever seen. Certainly.
Well, you haven't seen many people, but I get it.
Watch you. I mean,
I'm kidding.
that actually, I haven't seen very many people at your skill set. That's for sure.
Well,
that's for sure. But here's what I'm saying is you have great hands. You always have had great hands. We talked about the grips and the particular. I mean, for crying out loud, dude, I was blown away when you called out swing weight. You're sitting there and this man can hold a club like this, be like, it's D4.
Is that how I talk?
No, you'll go, man, it's D4. That means it's good, folks, by the way. If it's my favorite story to tell you, I still use you every single fitting. I talk about those variances, right? Your front to backs, right? So if we're trying to hit at 52, I always tell people this. I was like, in our situation for most amateurs, right? We try to keep you around 4 yards, right? So if it's 52, we're going to go 56 top end and we're going to go 48 bottom end. My favorite thing to tell people is like, now, if I have Jared Turner in here, that's different because it's 52. And then if it's not 54-50, if we're not in a 2-yard window, he's going to be like, that one's no good.
It sucks.
That one sucks.
Yep.
Yep. We've got to be able to hit those windows, which I want to get into that in a little bit because it's one of the most tragic things because you were one of the guys that was greatly affected when they had the groove change.
Correct.
I mean, it was the worst possible timing for you.
Correct.
But we'll get into that in a minute. So going back, we're 14. We've shot our 108. What then?
I went home in tears, I believe. I mean, I may be a dick, but I'm emotional,
sure.
for certain things. And I was like, you know what? This is, I didn't say it's not going to define me, but I was like, this isn't going to be the end of what I do.
Yeah.
And so I told my mom and dad, and my mom worked, my dad obviously worked at Lockheed. And so I was like, Mom, I want to go to the golf course every day. But we weren't members anywhere. We didn't have any of that kind of stuff. So they took me, my mom dropped me off at Rockwood, which was a municipal golf course in Fort Worth. And this was in 1989, 1990. And she would drop me off at 7 a.m. with my sandwich and my drinks and, $3 or $4 or $5 to buy something in the shop with my golf clubs. And I would play 36 holes every single day. I'd stop for lunch. I'd go inside and then I'd go back out again. And it's Texas. It's 105 degrees outside. So
Fort Worth. So it's
Fort Worth.
humid too.
Yeah, it's humid as hell. And she'd pick me up at 5:30. I mean, and I guess that's also the cool time. I mean, you could do that back then. I don't think you'd want to do that now. Just with society the way it is.
Yeah, man.
But just to go drop your kid off somewhere and say, all right, pods, there's no phones, there's no pagers, there's none of this crap. So it's just like, all right, son, I'll see you in about 8 or 9 hours.
Yeah.
Okay, Mom, have fun.
Yeah.
So anyway, we did that, and I was like, I'm going to be determined to do something. And the whole summer, she did it 5 days a week, and they would take me somewhere on the weekends to play golf, and no tournaments, just playing golf. And my sophomore year, My very first tournament, I had to go qualify. And then my very first tournament I won, shot 74.
So in 5 months,
Mm-hmm.
4 months,
Mm-hmm.
you go from 108
Yep, to 74.
to 74 and winner.
And win.
Okay, so there had to be something in there
You know, I
that
don't.
happened.
There was no.
Motivation.
There
maybe?
was. So the motivation became my mom and dad were going to finally get me golf lessons.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes, this is what I want. This is how I want to do it. This is what I want. So my mom finds this teacher. And like I told you earlier, I guess I could say his name. I mean, his name's Doug Higgins Jr. He's a teacher in Fort Worth. He still does. His brother was a teacher, I think, too. Anyway, the golf family. And he was out at Glen Garden, I believe, is where he was.
Did he ever play professionally or anything?
I think his brother may have, or he may have some at one point in time. Very well known in Fort Worth. Very well known. And very well known from a teaching aspect. I mean, he had a stable of like 4 or 5 kids that, I mean, those were his proteges, right? That's who he was taking them to the next level, if you will, to college level.
Sure.
Or whatever level it was. And my mom carries me over there, and we go in, and he's like, all right, hello, Mr. Turner, hello, or Mrs. Turner, and hello, Jared. And he goes, why don't you hit a few for me? Let me see what I'm working with here. And I'm pumped. I'm like, this is going to be great. So I hit a few balls, and I'm not going to say I hit them perfect at all. May have chunked some, may have thinned some, may have done whatever. It doesn't matter.
You're 14.
I'm 15 this time.
15,
Yeah,
okay.
Whatever. So I'm a freshman in high school. And after about 20 minutes, he pulls my mom back and is like, I don't know about this. Miss Turner, you may want to find your son a different sport. He doesn't have much athletic ability to conquer the game of golf. Anyway, my mom was livid.
As she should have been.
And I believe, don't quote me on this, I think she ripped his ass pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
She drugged me out of there. And I'm like, what? We've only been here 20 minutes. I want to hit some more balls.
I got a lesson.
At this point, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, right? I'm just hitting balls.
Oh, so you're not even privy to that conversation yet.
This whole conversation didn't come up till later in the car. So we're driving down the road back home, and I'm like, Mom, what's going on? And she kind of alludes to a little bit of it. She goes, I'm going to do something for you. Okay, what's that? Well, we lived on 20 acres, like I said earlier. We had a deck that went out to 150 yards. And I had a dog. If you remember Turner and Hooch.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I had a dog named Hooch. He was just a mutt, but he was my buddy. My mom and dad went and bought a golf cart, went and bought a mat, like what you guys hit off here in the bay, and 500 shag balls.
It's awesome.
And there, she said, you practice, you do you. And he goes, I'm going to give you every opportunity to do whatever it is that you want to do in this game. I said, okay, perfect. So I would go before school. I'd be up at 6, hitting shag balls. I had a tree down there. It was 150 yards. My dad mowed me a little thing, looked like a little green, but it wasn't 10 foot wide, both, all the way around circumference. And I would hit balls. And then me and Hooch would go down there, drive the golf cart, pick them up, come back every day after school. Same thing, over and over and over and over and over until basically my hands were bleeding. And that moment is when I was like understanding the conversation that happened with my mom.
Yeah.
I was like, I may not be the most talented kid ever, but you're not going to tell me I can't do something.
Mm-hmm.
And from that point forward, it was 100% golf. And there was nothing that was going to stop me from playing golf. And, then learning about the PGA Tour and at the time the Nike Tour, I was like, you know what? I want to do this.
Yeah.
I don't want to be a fireman. I don't want to do anything else. I want to play golf. This is what I want to do. And I told my parents when I was 16 years old, 15, 16, I said, I'm going to do this and I will make it. At some point in my life, I'm going to do this. And that's kind of where it all started. The teacher saying that I was terrible. And I didn't really have any other lessons after that because I actually didn't want to go because I didn't want somebody to say, you suck, you get out of here. So it was kind of just me and Hooch just out there hitting balls on the mat, firing it at the back pastures.
Yeah. So cool. So fast forward, you have your next tournament, you shoot 74, you win it. But there's also this really cool thing that you were telling me about with this same teacher.
Yeah.
A vindication of sorts.
Yeah.
Tell me about that event.
So this is probably, I'm 17 at this point. I think I was a junior. And I had won some North Texas like junior stuff.
Sure.
In the meantime. So I was starting to win some. It wasn't prolific. Don't get me wrong. I'm no Scotty Scheffler.
Yeah.
But I'd won some stuff, and played okay, and was starting to kind of come into my own, like shooting in the 60s more often when I was with buddies or practicing or doing whatever at the golf course. And so there was a qualifier that came up because I was not a D1 standout, let's say. And so I didn't get into a lot of AGA, GA stuff at the time. And it was very political, which I still think it is very political.
Oh yeah, for sure.
For the juniors. And so there's a qualifier. And it was at Hackberry Creek in Irvington. I'll never forget this as long as I live. And my mom and dad, they signed me up, and I think it was $200 or $300 to do it. I mean, at the time, it was a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so I drive out there, and it's windy. I've never seen the golf course. I didn't play a practice round. I didn't know it. It's like whatever. And I go out there and shoot 6 under, 66.
Whoops.
And this gentleman that was the guy that was telling me that I shouldn't be playing golf anymore was the head pro there, or the head director of lessons or some shit. And I knew exactly what I was doing.
Oh yeah.
And I was playing, if I remember right, either with or the guy, his head protege was right behind me. I don't remember this kid's name. It's irrelevant. But I remember walking off that green. And I knew I'd won because I was one of the last few groups. And I'd won by like 2 or 3 shots because it was blowing. And shooting 66. And I just looked at him and basically gave him you can go to hell.
Yeah.
And
how about that, buddy?
Yeah. I mean, it was, and that's kind of when it's like really, really started for me. Because that was my first really low round, in the mid 60s in a tournament. Like I had done it during other things, but in a tournament that was like, because I had shot like 69 or 70 and in tournament competition.
Bro, that was an AJGA event.
That was an AJGA event, and I ended up winning it and beating the piss out of his boys. And I knew exactly what was going on.
Yeah. Yeah. Did he, just out of curiosity?
Never acknowledged it.
Yeah.
That's where you're going.
Shocker.
Yeah. I mean, and again, I've seen the guy. He doesn't even probably remember me at this point. Like I've seen him in town in Fort Worth. I mean, it's just, and it again, I have no ill feelings towards the guy. I really don't. But that was my motivation. I'm glad he did what he did, because had he not done what he done, I don't know where I would have went with the game.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
No, 100%.
Like I don't feel bad.
I hate his guts, but
well, I tell you, I went a lot further in this game.
Yeah.
Than most anybody thought I could do or believed I could do, other than myself and probably my parents. So for that, I'm grateful for it at this point, because I wouldn't have got to do
you're
things
exactly right.
and winning at every level except the PGA Tour, which still pisses me off. But regardless, winning at every level to that point, I had to have some sort of driving factor.
Well, we're still working on that, Potts.
Yeah.
We may get there.
Yeah, we may. You never know.
We're still working on that.
Yeah. So anyway, again, I'm not mad at the guy at all. And if he watches this, I mean, he can still piss off, but
a lot.
But it again, I'm grateful for it. I really, really, truly am, because I don't know that I would have the chip, as you say, on my shoulder that I have if I hadn't had that change in my life.
Yeah.
To drive me to do something different.
Well, that chip, really, at the end of the day, what it's saying is, I'm not going to allow someone else's negative attitude to dictate how far I'm going to go, but also it gives you a power, man. It's a superpower, so to speak. And, yeah, you can say it's a chip on the shoulder, you're a dick or whatever. Yeah. But what it really is it's I'm in control of this. I'm not going to allow someone else to tell me or dictate, where I can go with this.
Sure.
If you may tell me it's impossible. I mean, how many people through the years, when they hear you played on the PGA Tour, really? I mean, they're amazed by that. But at the same time, how many of those same people would have looked at you and be like, Dave, you'll never make it on the tour?
Yeah. I mean,
you know what I mean?
There was a lot. I mean, I'm sure there was.
Yeah.
I mean, I know there was. And again, it's everybody's entitled to their own opinion.
Sure.
It's one of those deals. They're kind of like assholes. Everybody has one.
Yeah.
And, some are valid, some are not valid. But the whole dickish thing, I think being a professional golfer, and I'm sure Kelly would say this, whoever you've had, I mean, you almost have to be to a point.
Yeah.
Because it is just you and your caddy, let's say, and it's, you're playing the golf course and other people. But I mean, if you don't have at the time, I think it's different now, right? Because I've played with some kids now and they're just really nice kids and they're just really good. Like,
sure.
As opposed to when I was playing. I think you had to have it.
100%.
You had to have it because I don't know of a guy that I met that I was like, he is just a really nice guy.
Yeah.
Playing golf for a living. There was always something about him. There was always some little edge, something that however they carried themselves, however they did it, they had something going on that drove them to be what they were.
100%.
Now, there was a couple of guys that were just okay. They were very friendly. And I was friendly. I would talk to you as long as you wanted to talk. But also, as soon as we wanted to put a peg in the ground, I wanted to stomp on your head.
That's right.
And it was a different situation. Now, whether I did or didn't do it, that's irrelevant, right? But I wanted to stomp on you and everybody else that I played golf with.
Yeah. And at that point, it's not about, I mean, so many people, I've heard, I'm a huge Tiger fan, but I've heard so many people, say things very similar to what I'm saying. And that's the correlation I'm trying to draw here.
Yeah, for sure.
Is that edge that you had is not dissimilar to his edge. And it was very similar.
Oh, we're way different. That guy, I mean, holy shit, I'm not even in the same realm.
He wouldn't even say anything to anybody.
No, I mean, it's, there were some stories that when I was playing on tour that I got around him, but it's his deal was, it was an intimidation.
Right.
Factor. Not to mention that he's, again, you can argue the Jack Tiger thing, whatever.
Sure.
Tiger Woods did more for me and my family than Jack did, but I didn't play in Jack's era.
Sure.
Tiger came along, 96, started doing all this stuff. Money starts going up. I mean, I'm basically a country kid from Azle, Texas at 35 years old playing for $7 million a week in prize money.
Yeah.
Had Tiger not come, that's not happening.
Yeah, it's still like, what, $1 million
or
maybe?
$3 million or something crazy. I mean, he drove and he, like they all say, he was the needle and still is the needle. Sure. Right. So, I mean, he can be whatever he wants to be. Mm-hmm. If he wants to be super dickhead, okay, great. He made more people money in this game than people will probably own up to, because without him, even the career guys that didn't win a whole lot that played on tour for 15 or 20 years during his era made millions, 30, 40, 50, $60 million because of Tiger.
Well, and I think this is interesting because you played with him, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, no, we never. I'll tell you a quick funny story. We're at Quail Hollow one year, and this is in 2010, and the head of tour relations is out driving the golf course, and I'm kind of I'm known as a dick, but I'm also known as a jokester. Sure. So like I like to give people shit and kind of get them riled up over things, maybe in a dickish way, but it's okay. But so the head of tour relations is driving by, and I'll never forget it. We're on 15. I think 15 is the par 5 that goes up the hill. And 16, yeah, 15. And he drives up, and he's like, JT, because I was the original JT.
Original JT right here.
Yes, by God. But anyway, So he comes up, JT, how's it going? You know, this and that. And then we start bullshitting. He's driving in his golf cart with somebody else with tour relations. And I'm like, hey, Potts, I saw tee times are out. I was like, I'm paired with Tiger. He goes, what? What? Oh, he starts to have a panic attack.
Yeah.
Like, how in the fuck are you with Tiger right now on day 1 and 2, basically, or, teeing off the next day? And so he's like, what? As he pulls out his deal, he starts looking, he goes, come on, dude. I'm like, what's so wrong with that? Well, anyway, Tiger's behind me. So he wasn't with me, but he was behind me. And it's funny, there was a tabloid put out or something that week, and it was like, Turner beats Tiger. But I think it was because he had went through some of his stuff at home with his wife.
Yeah.
I think he got his, like, maybe, he lost a tooth that time or did something.
Had a 9-iron in his temple.
Yeah, I mean, he shot like high 70s both days. So, I mean, it didn't take a whole lot to beat him. I don't think I made the cut that week. But anyway, I gave him some shit about it. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think what's so cool is as you get past the junior golf, where'd you do your college?
I went to Weatherford Junior College, another country little bumpkin school.
Yeah.
Coach Rod Embry. I had some other small offers. Like, I mean, I had some D1s that were local, like TCU and some other stuff that I had wrote letters to. Because I was playing very good my junior year, shooting in the 60s, playing in some AJGA events and doing well. Didn't win an AJGA event, but was still winning, the junior tours and all the other, the garbage. And so I had some followers at some of the events I was at. And my senior year, I didn't play as well. For whatever reason, I wasn't shooting in the low 60s and stuff that I was doing as a junior. And so those guys started peeling off pretty fast.
Yeah.
And so when Coach Embry came up to me and he's like, I want you to play here, he goes, I'll give you a full ride. And at the time, full rides were like few and far between.
Yeah, we're in.
So, and it was close to home. And I didn't really want to be away from home, as much from my parents. Hindsight being 2020, as soon as I signed with Weatherford, and could have went to a couple other places, my parents moved to Korea.
That's great.
So I'm like, this is cool.
Yeah.
I stayed here, wanted to go to school here, be close to my parents, which was like 20 minutes down the road. Could have stayed at home or, still stayed in the dorms, whatever. Korea.
Bye.
I'm like, well, fuck, that didn't work out very well.
There it is.
That
was it.
Well, fuck. So I'm like, well, that backfired kind of.
Yeah.
But I played at Weatherford for 2 years and then was going to transfer to Tarleton, which was not too much further down the road.
Mm-hmm.
And then Title IX was a deal during that time frame. This was in 94, 95, somewhere around there. And so they got rid of the golf program. Well, they kept the golf program, but they didn't want to give scholarships.
Got it.
And there's my other what the fuck moment. I was like, I'm not going to school if I can't play golf. Because I didn't like school. I wasn't good, ADHD, whatever you want to call it.
Well, you made it clear to Mom, I'm playing golf.
I'm playing golf.
Yeah.
Well, that didn't necessarily work out for the next 6 years. But so I went to Tarleton for a semester and I'm like, I think I'm good. So I called my parents in Korea and said, hey, y'all, I'm going to quit school. And she's like, what?
Excuse me.
I said, I'm going to quit school and I'm going to go to work. I said, if I can't play golf and do all, I don't want to do it.
And you're in Korea, so what are you going to do?
Yeah, so what are you going to do? You going to cut my gas card off?
Yeah,
okay,
come on.
Great. So I went to work for my uncle in the construction company that he owned, still does. Matter of fact, my daughter graduated TCU last fall, and she works for him now too. So it's kind of a family deal.
That's
but
cool.
I was sweeping floors and picking up trash and doing all that, and kind of worked my way up through it. And I was, still playing golf, on the side, and some money games,
Sure.
stuff like that. But no, I mean, I actually had a span from when I left school. I think I had a 6-year span. No, 4-year span.
So 1996
to 2000.
Okay, so
I didn't
2000.
play. I wasn't like, I was just kind of pissing around with it. And my first wife, I'm since remarried. My first wife went home in 2000, and I was like, I don't want to work anymore. this sucks.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I make okay money, but like, I don't really want to be doing this anymore. And I had worked my way up in the company, right? I was a project manager. I was running jobs and, you know, I had a good job, but I was like, she's pregnant with my daughter who just graduated. And I went home and I'm like, I think I'm gonna play professional golf. I'm like, I got to give this a go.
Yeah.
It's been my dream. I still want to try it. So she's like, are you sure? I'm like, honey, I'm not that bad. She's like, okay. You know, she kind of looks at me cross-eyed like, what are we going to do?
Here it comes.
Here it comes.
More motivation,
Yeah.
baby.
So more motivation at that point. God love her. It's okay. But so a buddy of mine calls me, and this is the reason why I quit work. He's like, hey, let's go up to Waterloo, Iowa and play in a golf tournament. He goes, it's like $500, but winner gets $25,000. I'm like, all right, let's do this. So we get in the car. It's 12 and a half hours up there. Well, long story short, in between leaving Fort Worth and getting to Iowa, we have to stop in Wichita, Kansas, or somewhere in Kansas. And a tornado comes through the town that we're staying in. We wake up with no lights, no water, and no roof on the fucking hotel.
That's fantastic.
It's awesome. So most people would have said, bye. And I'm like, nope. We got up at 3 a.m. after the tornado went through. And his buddy of mine's Jameson Batters, really good friend of mine. Anyway, we keep driving. So we go up to Waterloo, Iowa. Never see a practice round. Don't know the golf course.
Survived a tornado.
Survived a tornado on the way up there.
Car still running some.
Nothing happened to the car, thank goodness.
Right.
And it wasn't my car. It was Jameson's. So if it had happened, then we'd have really been screwed.
Yeah.
So we go up there, and it's a 2-day tournament. It's just a SWAT fest. It's like, go get it.
Yeah.
And I shoot 63, 66.
Come on.
15 under, win $25,000.
Oh, you win the thing.
I win my first professional tournament. And I'm like, this bullshit's easy.
Yeah.
I can do this
Yeah.
all day long. I mean, what else you going to go do for 2 days and make $25,000?
That's right.
Having fun doing it. And I'll never forget because I'd been back to play over the years. Obviously, this was in 2000. And I never really had 25,000 to myself. Like, you know, I'd made it, you know, with some months and months and months.
Yeah, 2 or 3, 4.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah. So I never really had 25. So I told James, I said, we're staying here. He's like, why? I said, because I'm going to the damn bank in the morning and I'm cashing this damn check because I don't want this thing to bounce. I want my money.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how it worked, right? I don't, you know, you don't do that really because they kind of gave me shit about it afterwards. But I left there with $25,000 in cash in a backpack. Went to Kansas again and played in some Kansas State Open or something on the way home. And then the whole time I'm like scared shitless that somebody's gonna steal my $25,000.
Sure.
I'd spend a little bit of it, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. We partied a little bit, but
Casino, anything like that?
I mean, we did some stupid shit, but I still came back with, you know, maybe like 21,000 or 22,000. But anyway.
So you went ham.
Oh yeah. We went all in. And anyway, so that's kind of my first kind of professional look at it. It cost me $500, won 25,000. And I'm like, this is kind of cool. I think, you know, never seen a golf course, go rip it up.
So who was that with? Was that just like
it's a state open. Like it's like the Texas State Open, but it's in Iowa.
Okay.
And so it was like, man, this is pretty cool. It's pretty easy.
So then what? You got home and you were like,
I got home. I'm like, see, honey,
told you.
This is easy shit.
Now, hang on. What did she say when you got home?
She was pregnant and delusional at that point.
Yeah. Getting towards the end of pregnancy.
I knew you could do it. Yeah. I'm like, bro, come on.
Yeah.
No, she actually was. She was super supportive early on, but
sure.
It was still, I mean, I would think if I was in those shoes, I'd be like,
I'm pregnant. What
seriously?
Are you doing?
Yeah.
Quitting your job?
Yeah. I mean, we don't have a whole lot of $500 is laying around.
Yeah.
And you're going to go up here and do this.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, made $25,000 there. And, you know, it kind of parlayed into some things. And then it just mini tours. Like it was just a mini tour after mini tour.
So you were playing like Adams or
at the time it was Adams Tour, Tight Lives Tour, State Opens, just whatever the hell I could get into. And a bunch of money games. Right? I mean, it was a bunch of gambling games at the time. And this is when gambling was more prevalent than it is now.
Yeah.
People seem to have had a lot more money at that point. But anyway, that's how I funded, my whole situation with the kids and all that kind of good stuff was through that.
So you won a lot of money just playing at your local club or what have
Yeah.
you.
Well, it was traveling and playing,
Also,
yeah.
you'd go get in money.
Yeah. I mean, if it was down in Houston or, wherever, I mean, we would go and play and even taking Les to, a deal and having him sign up and he didn't know what he was doing, but I forced him to do it. Just whatever you could do. I mean, it didn't matter. If you make a couple grand, you go make a couple grand. Sometimes it might cost you a couple grand, but it's just, that's what you had to do to kind of survive during that whole situation.
So how did you end up on the Nationwide? What was your big break for that?
I went to, I'd played mini tour golf, kind of worked and played mini tour golf for about 6 years. Cause playing mini tour golf, if you make 60, 70, 80,000, you've done really well, but you've just spent 40 to go do it.
Yeah.
So a whole lot of money for home at that point. So I kind of did both.
Sure.
Right. So I was working for friends, whatever, trying to make sure bills were covered while still playing.
Were you still doing construction stuff as well?
Yes, both.
Wow.
Because I was kind of good at it.
Yeah.
If you will. I mean, I knew what I was doing. It was something that came easy to me.
You helped me a ton, bro. When I
there you
built
go.
the kids' playhouse.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Remember that?
We did do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't come help you, but gave you some information.
Yeah, but you drew it all up and I knew what to do then.
So, I mean, yeah, I kind of did all that. And, still, I went to tour school and I didn't go very often, to be fair. It was a lot of money at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then at that time, I'd had a second child. So it was like a lot of money. So I went to tour school in 2000 and call it 2004. It's finally when I got the sack to go to tour school.
Sure.
And I go to first stage and I'm like fifth after 3 days. I'm like, all right, this is pretty easy.
Yeah.
I shoot 78 in the final round, miss by one. Oh. So I don't get to go to second stage. I'm like, well, shit. So that kicked me square in the sack. Yeah, I mean, it was tough because I didn't I'm the kind of person that I don't sign up for anything if I don't feel like I'm ready.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
For sure.
I mean, I wouldn't go to a tournament if I didn't feel like I was ready. I just didn't want to waste it.
What happened there? On that last round, can you recall kind of where your mind was? And
I was nervous as shit.
Yeah.
And I think I was getting my body. I had felt things that I've never felt before. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Just, how the club was moving, how I was moving, how my body was moving. I'm like, this is not familiar to me. The first 3 days was just smooth sailing, right down the middle.
Jittery maybe.
It wasn't jittery. I mean, obviously I had butterflies, but the meaning of making it, I was looking so far out. Oh my God.
This was your dream though. Bro.
I can get to the tour with this deal. Because at the time, this was when tour school, you got your card through tour school, not Corn Ferry status. Right. So I was like, I think, this is I'm well on my way. Yeah. And then I freaking pop a 78 at him and miss by a shot. And I'm like, oh, that's demoralizing. This Q school sucks.
I want to touch on one thing because you mentioned it earlier about how it was windy at the tournament that you won and so on and so forth. Man, I think that's one of the things that that kind of gets missed with your career. The crappier the condition,
the better it was. Yeah, I mean, you could skip 3 or 4 years in there, and I end up going to tour school in 2009. Okay. For the third time, I didn't go many. I know some guys that went every year for 10 years and never made it through.
Okay, so your second time, did you get past stage one?
So my second time, I'm working in the oil field.
Okay.
In Fort Worth.
Yeah.
The Barnett Shell, and I'm still playing. Right. Still playing tournaments. The guy I work for, Randy Nelson, Odessa boy.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. You know Randy.
Yeah.
So he's like, Pods, you got to go try this. He goes, you're playing way too good. I'm like, I'm playing with customers. Okay, I shoot 62 or 3 or 4 on a little rinky-dink golf course. But he's like, you've got to go play. I'm like, no. He goes, you're going, and I'm going to send another guy with you to caddy for you, one of the other sales guys. And his name was Dustin Sherrill. He's like, you're going. I don't care what you say. You're going. Okay, fine. So this was in 2008. This is in 2008. fall of 2008. So Dustin and I go to Houston, and I shoot 4 rounds in the 60s and finish third. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe this is, maybe it's something. Still had money coming in. They were still paying me.
Sure.
So it's like I didn't really care, had some money coming in at the house. And so I'm like, oh, shit, now we're at second stage. Well, Dustin couldn't go. And so I called Mark Brooks, who had been helping me, just with understanding golf, right? Like wedge play and just, he had been, and I'd played a lot of golf with him before, Les and I, obviously.
Sure.
We're playing a lot of golf with Mark, and I was getting better. Like literally I was getting better. I had kind of hit another plateau. I mean, that 26 to 32, I wasn't a very good player. Like I knew how to play golf, but I didn't know how to play golf.
Yeah.
So anyway, I called Mark. I said, I need somebody to caddy for me at second stage. I just made it. I just shot 4 rounds. And he goes, I know. I was watching. So he calls a friend of his. His name's the Judge. He's a caddy. He's a caddy on tour for years and years and years. 20 years. Caddy for Mark for however long.
And for you youngsters out there, Mark Brooks, major champion.
Major champion. Yeah. Seven-time winner.
Yeah. Just so you know.
And a major.
Yeah.
Very good player.
So he kind of taught you how to see the game.
He was helping me along. Yeah. He was very motivational in helping me understand shot shape, just different things around the greens,
Sure.
things you got to learn.
Yeah.
And so he called a guy, and this guy's name's Judge. And so I meet him, and I'm going into Alabama, and I'm driving. So we get there, and we play like 6 holes. And I'm like 10, 12 paces in front of Judge, and he's on the phone. I'm like, what are we doing?
Mm-hmm.
He's on the phone with Mark. And I hear it, but I don't hear it. Like I'm not supposed to be hearing it, but I'm hearing it. And Judge he's telling Mark, he goes, this boy can go. He's good. That is the only thing I needed to hear. Because I was a little skeptical with myself when I got there. I mean, at that tour school, Webb Simpson, he ended up winning that week.
Yeah.
Second stage. I mean, the career he had. There was a
yeah.
bunch of good players there. And it was second stage, first time for me ever to second stage.
Sure.
But I'm hearing Mark tell Judge something, and Judge is like, this boy can go. Like he can, this isn't going to be a problem. Shoot 4 rounds in the 60s there. Finish second or third at second stage.
Okay.
So I'm going to finals at this point. And I'm like, here we go. This is all I needed. I just need this one little pop to help me out. So I go to finals, shoot $1 million, get some conditional nationwide tour status.
So this is how we get on.
This is how we're there.
All right.
This is 2009. This is how we're there. I finished third at first and second stage. And so anyway, long story short, I get into no events because I'm conditional status at the time. And at the time they let like 186 guys or 168 guys go to finals.
So what does conditional mean? Like
it's basically
if we don't have enough people, you're in.
Correct, which they very rarely ever do at that point. So you had, the first 25 got tour cards, the next so many got fully exempt nationwide tour, and then the rest of it was like a fill-in deal. They've since shrunk that down, because there's too many people. But anyway, so I get this, and I'm not getting any starts. I'm going to Monday. And I'm shooting 66, 65, 67s. I miss every one of them. Well, I finally make one in Wichita, finish 15th. After I Monday in, I finished 15th. So I go play a few more events. And
what does that pay, by the way?
I think I made probably like 12 grand.
That's not too terrible.
10 grand.
It's
not bad. I mean,
it's not great, but
it's not great, but it was a small purse, and it could have been 9 grand. Hell, I don't even remember.
Yeah.
So I tracked this along, and it's like coming up to the end of the season, and I'm like, I've grinded my ass off.
Yeah.
I've played great in qualifiers, but I haven't got in much. I'd played like 3 or 4 events. That was it. Still playing mini tours, won a couple times on the mini tours in between everything, just whatever we're doing. And the next thing you know, I'm not getting any more starts. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah.
And I'd made some money, but I was shuffled so far down, and guys had played all season, and they had played so much better than me, or whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter.
So much more than you really.
So much more, because I don't think I only played like 3 or 4 events.
Yeah, you've only been in 3 or 4.
And so, I'm on the phone with my wife, and I'm just like, man, I don't know if I want to do this crap anymore. You know, I've given it everything I have, and I haven't gotten there. And Midland, Texas, Midland Country Club is 2 weeks away. And that was the time when the tour went to Boise, which I did not get in. And then they come to Midland, and then they would go somewhere, you know, another 1,000 miles away. So a lot of people skipped Midland at the time because it was such a travel nightmare, right? And they had played 4 or 5 events in a row or whatever. So like, you know what, I'm taking Midland off for whatever reason. And I come out here to try to Monday for Midland. I shoot like 68 or 7 and miss. But I'm like 4th alternate in the field because it's starting to dive out. Like guys are starting to pull out. They're not going to play that week. And I'm sitting around on Tuesday, and I didn't get to like 1st alternate on Tuesday. So I'm like, oh man, this might be all right. And I'm playing a practice round just in case. Well, a guy named Kyle Reifers finally pulls out 11th hour and 59th minute. I'm in the field. So this is in 2009. And a buddy of mine, Brooks West, is here caddying for me. And we're in the field. We got a tee time. It's like, that's all I wanted. I just want another shot at this deal. So I come to Midland. I finished 7th that week. Shot 4 rounds in the 60s. Shot like, I don't know, 16, 17 under.
Was it blowing a million? Like,
oh yeah, it always was.
Yeah.
It always did. And I'll never forget it. The first 2 rounds I was playing with a buddy of mine, Jim McGovern, who doesn't play. I think he's teaching now, but he's in his mid-50s probably now or later. And I birdied the first 7 par 3s I played. So the first day I birdied all the par 3s. Second day I birdied the first 3. And I'll never forget it because he's on the green. He's a great dude, country guy I think he was from Alabama or somewhere around there. And he's like, I hit it to about 15 feet, and we're walking up to the green. And he's like, you got to do this. I'm like, do what? What are you talking about? He goes, well, you don't even know? I'm like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. He goes, if you make this, you've birdied the first 8 par 3s you've played in 2 days. You birdied all of them. And you know, Midland Country Club, there's some 200-yarders. There's some good
I was just about to comment on. I mean,
there's some good ones.
Those ain't easy par 3s there, dude.
Anyway, I miss it. Long story short, finished 7th. Well, top 25 gets you in the next week.
Bang.
So I make like 15 or 16 grand or something like that, 18 grand. I'm like, I'm cooking with grease now. I got this crap. Drive home, 4 hours.
Okay.
Plane flight all the way to Marietta, California.
We got that cash.
Yeah, we could fly at that point. Well, of course, we had to.
Southwest Big Bird.
We had to, though, because we couldn't get there in time if we were driving my old piece of crap I had.
Yeah.
And so we go and I played a practice round with Mark Brooks as he was in that category where he wasn't getting many tour events, but he could always fall back and play Nationwide Tour at the time.
Sure.
So he was playing some events just to try to stay sharp for Champions Tour stuff.
Uh-huh.
And so we're playing a practice round, and I'm walking around this place. I'm like, man, this thing's pretty good for me. It feels right. And I don't know why. But the par 5s I could all reach. The par 4s, I mean, it was tight, had heavy rough, and I was a good driver of the golf ball. I wasn't long, but I was a good driver of the golf ball.
Yeah.
Could always keep it in play. My mid-irons weren't great, but I could drive it and chip it and putt it with the best of them. And that's what I hung my hat on my whole career. And so we get there, we're playing practice round, and I'm telling Brooks, I'm like, dude, this golf course is perfect. I go, especially if the wind blows. Because it can be some Santa Anas at times in California.
Sure.
So we go through the first 3 days, and I'm 13 or so under after 3 days in like 4th place.
Striking distance, baby.
But I'm not even thinking about winning, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I'm thinking I can make another top 25.
Stay on for
the next week. It's just, I don't have to go to, it's not even in my mind about winning. But we could wake up Sunday, and we're going to the golf course, and I got like a 130. I ain't had a 130 ever. I'm like, this is taking forever. I mean, I'm up at 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
So we get there and way too early, jacking around, chipping and putting. And Brooks is like, dude, you need to go chill out. Cause I'm like the Energizer Bunny.
Yeah.
I'm like, we got to get this going. And it's like 11 at this point. And I'm like, I still got 2.5 hours to go. So the wind's blowing 40. 40. Santa Ana winds pick up.
Perfect.
Guy, the superintendent, doesn't water overnight, bakes out the whole golf course.
Awesome.
Admitted after the fact that it had gotten away from him. Like literally, the green speeds and the firmness, it got away from him. And so I'm not paying attention. I'm plotting along. It's par. And again, it's blowing 20, 30, whatever it was. It was gusting. Make a birdie. Kind of keep going. We get to 16, and Brooks is like, "Hey, Pods, how you feeling?" I'm like, "This wind sucks." I'm like, "I'm fighting for everything I can do out here." He's like, "You know where you're at?" I said, "No." So I'm just trying to get this over with. Not over with, but like it's so windy.
Trying to get it to the house.
I want to get it to the house.
Yeah.
Like, don't care. Like, I just know I haven't made any mistakes, really. I think I'd made 2 birdies. No, I'd made a birdie and a bogey at that point. So I was even par. And he goes, "You have a 1-shot lead."
Everybody came back to you.
Everybody. Wow. And I'm like, "Do what?" And so it's a par 3 over water. It's like 220 yards into the fan. I'm like, "Fuck, you going to tell me this now?"
That's what I was going to ask. Was that a good thing or a bad thing?
It was. So I'm sitting here stressing now, like hugely. I hadn't stressed the whole day, like stressing for pars, but not where I was in the golf tournament.
And we got 220 into the blow.
I got 220 straight to the fan. I'm like, this ain't good. So I hit a 3 hybrid to like the front left corner, as far away from the water as I can get it, but on the green. 3 putt. I'm like, "Dude, really?" He's like, "It's fine. I'm like, okay. It was a hard hole. Like, bogey was probably a good score there.
Yeah.
Back right pin, 220, cover water. It's like, oh God.
Yeah.
So I make bogey. He's like, "Bro, it's fine." Well, the next hole is in off the right. In off the left. And it's a par 5 that they've converted to a par 4.
Perfect. Those long as crap.
So I'm like, gosh. Yeah. And I'm, again, not a huge driver of the golf ball. Can drive it straight. So I drive it down the middle, drive it up there, or knock it on the green and make a par, which to me is a 4, which I just made birdie.
Yeah.
So I'm like, this is cool. So I'm okay. So I go to the next hole. It's a drivable par 4 that's not really drivable because it's in off the left.
Okay.
And I said, "Brooks, I'm not hitting driver." He's like, "Yeah, you are." I'm like, "No, dude. No, you just said." I go, "Right now I got to be tied for the lead."
So is Brooks following you?
No, Brooks is my
he's
caddy. He's my caddy.
Okay. Not Mark Brooks.
No. This is
Other
Brooks West. Yeah,
Brooks
different
West.
Brooks.
Got it.
So Brooks is like, "No, you're not. Don't be a bleep. You're hitting driver."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Are you sure?" Second time in my life, get to this in a second, of hearing a conversation that motivated me. It's very strange, very ironic. So I hit this tee ball up there, and I kind of fizz it up to the right, but it's just barely in the cut, the first cut, and then the pin's tucked over a bunker. And one of the rules officials is like 20 feet from us in his cart. You know, it's just the way they do things. And I hear him on the radio. "God damn, Turner's in the lead. I know this boy. He plays with, so-and-so." And I knew the guy. He was from Dallas. He goes, "Turner's in the lead." He goes, "They're not going to beat him." And I hear this over the radio because the wind's cooking.
Yeah.
You can hear it.
Yeah.
He's like, "He's not giving this up. He's not going to give this up." He goes, "My money's on him." And he's talking to some other official somewhere. I mean, on the radio.
And so you're in the lead by yourself.
No.
right now.
I'm even still. Like I'm flush.
Okay.
With a guy named Derek Lamley, good
Okay.
friend of mine. So we're flush at this point. So I'm like, "Brooks, I cannot hit this wedge at the hole. I'm only 40 yards. The greens are concrete. There's no way I can stop this ball anywhere around the pin." He's like, "All right, get it out to the right. Give yourself a putt." I said, "Okay." Kind of give it out to the right. Got a 15-footer straight down, downhill, downwind, snapping.
Perfect.
That's what I said. I said, "Brooks, what the hell, dude?" I said, "I'm going to have to struggle 2-putting this." He goes, "No, you're not. The read is X." And at that time, Brooks was a fabulous green reader. Like, awesome. I said, "Okay." Shit can.
Goes in.
Goes in.
Come on.
Hear the guy on the radio. "Told you." And again, I'm not supposed to hear this.
Yeah.
Motivation.
Yeah.
Next hole's par 5, dog leg left, down off the left now. And I'm like, Brooks is like, you're not hitting 3-wood. I'm like, I need to hit 3-wood. He goes, nope, rip it. So I hit this driver down the left side, and it's blowing right, and I got 5-iron in my hand. Oh my God.
Now this is that Big Bertha 5-iron?
This is my Big Bertha, my 03 Bertha.
Come on, baby.
I could do tricks with those things back then. So this is a 5-iron. It's like 205, let's say, kind of down, all cover over water, green's kind of kidney shape. And I'll never forget this, with heavy, heavy grass in the back. Like if you go long, you may not get it up and down. But I'm like, how am I going to stop this 5-iron, Brooks? I said, don't you think I ought to just lay it up and wedge it up there? Because at the time, I mean, if you give me a wedge, I was going to hit it inside 8 feet. No questions asked. He goes, no, hit 5-iron. I'm like, it's going over. He goes, I don't care. Just cover the water. Okay. So we hit 5-iron, lands right by the pin, over the back of the green.
She go.
Buried.
That's awesome.
So we get up there, and I'm like, where's my ball? And the one of the guys that was, kind of marking or, was looking for, he's like, it's somewhere right in here. He couldn't see it.
Holy crap.
And I'm like, you gotta be shitting me. So we find it. I mean, we see it, and it's like, okay, it's right here. And Brooks is like, how hard is this? Because this is cake. I'm thinking, well, I'm glad you think it's cake, because this thing's buried up to my ankles.
Yeah.
And I've got it's short-sighted, basically. I got like 15 feet to pitch it on, stop it, somewhere around these concrete greens.
Stop it.
Hit it to about 6 inches. Made birdie. So I'm like, I think I just won.
Yeah.
And Brooks is like, I think you did too. We were both like, holy shit, what just happened? And Derek was 2 holes behind me, and he still had 17 and 18 to play, which he's long. He was longer than I am. Good player. He ended up winning on tour his rookie year, our rookie year. Anyway, he ends up parring 17 and birdie. And I had a 3-shot lead after I made birdie, because he had made bogey on 16. His caddy probably told him he was in the lead, probably made bogey just like I did.
Yeah.
And anyway, I ended up winning by 2. In a matter of seconds, I went from who the hell knows where I was going or what I was doing to winning. And it was $1 million purse, which was $180,000 for first place.
Oh my gracious. Yeah.
So I went from 140th on the money list to like 20th. Locked in my card. Locked. There's only like 4 events left.
Yeah.
And they're running around going, you're done. I'm like, say what? What do you mean I'm done? It's like, you're going to the tour. That's all you needed. It's like, that was kind of a emotional sticker shock, if you will.
What was going through your brain at that point?
I really wanted a beer.
Okay.
To be fair.
What kind?
I was hungry. At the time, it was Coors Light, which I won't touch now. But at the time, it was Coors Light. I really wanted a beer, and Fat Boy was hungry. And the guys in the truck ended up ordering me pizza and beer while Derek was finishing. And we sat in the truck and drank beer and ate pizza until Derek was done. And then we did the whole ceremony on the green. They gave me my big cardboard check for $180,000.
Now, would the bank cash that one for you?
Yeah, no. They did direct deposit on tour. I didn't have to go cash that damn thing. But yeah, I mean, so it was kind of a perfect storm for me, if that makes any sense. I mean,
dude,
it was.
It's so cool because like you were there at this moment where you're like, man, I don't know. You know,
I was. I mean,
I've grinded my tail off.
Everybody gets there in this game,
and then there it is.
And then, and again, this game's about opportunity, right? And it's about trying to make sure you capture your opportunity. And a lot of people don't get, like, I know 1,000 great players in this game that never got the opportunity. That probably could have went further than I ever went. But it's kind of knocking down that door in the time that you have it to knock it down. And if you don't, then you're doing something else.
Well, but it's also, man, and you got to give yourself credit. And again, it's one of my favorite things about just knowing you is knowing your journey. But bro, you could have easily given up.
I should have.
You could have easily said, nah, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm just going to work. You know, it is what it is. But man, that 14-year-old or 15-year-old that heard, the story of he needs to play another sport.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, that carried you.
Well, that and hearing the conversations of other people,
Yeah, man.
instead of the negative talk that I would hear
Turned
in the
into
chatter,
positive.
it turned into positive. And it's just like the judge saying what he said when we were in the practice round of second stage, and then hearing the official say what he was saying.
Mm-hmm.
It was just some reassurance that I should have been able to do it.
Yeah.
Whether I was going to accomplish it or not, you never know, right? You're not going to, nothing's guaranteed in this world, obviously. And it was one of those deals that's all I needed to hear, not from an outside standpoint, but to help me keep with the motivation.
Yeah. And so that's just so you know, that's what pisses me off the most about the coach that you mentioned. Man, I'm a firm believer that everybody in their life at some point has to have somebody that says, hey, I believe in you, dude.
Yeah.
I think you can make it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think you can do exactly what your brain's saying. And that guy missed an opportunity to do that,
Yeah, if you look at it from that standpoint. But I mean, he had enough probably in his stable that he didn't need another one, apparently.
Well, sure, but if you're coaching out there in any sport, I don't care if it's golf, but my uncle told me this years ago, because I was teaching a lot as well. And he said, man, just always be cognizant of your words around the youngsters, because they're always listening. And if it's the wrong, if you slip up and say something that you shouldn't say, you'll be shocked how long that sticks with them. He goes, but the flip side to that is when you pour into them, right? And when you encourage them, that goes a really long
It goes
way.
Miles. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's fair. I mean, it's again, I don't have any ill will against it. I know you do, which is great.
Yeah. It pisses me off. But at the same time, it's what motivated you.
It's what 100% motivated me, to do it.
It motivated you. So, I mean, I guess good job to that guy, but
but not
at the same time, go ahead.
Yeah, but I think it's my, if you call it my dickish attitude or wanting, I didn't want to take no for an answer.
Yeah.
Not that I ever, it didn't deserve, or I wasn't more deserving as anybody. It's not the case.
Yeah, but it forced you to work harder, man.
Work harder.
And that's where that is. That's, if you don't have that motivation, if you don't have that chip, if you don't have that, whatever you want to call it, that's an it factor, right? And,
to a point.
And that's what carried you through. But at the same time, even having that, you're human.
Yeah.
You needed to be encouraged. You needed to hear that guy on the radio.
100%. I'm telling you, that was a huge moment for me.
Yeah.
Because somebody else thought more of me than not more, but the same as what I felt inside. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
And that wasn't really the case all the way through my career.
It was confirmation.
It was confirmation that I was doing something. And, having a dream as a child, it's like you want to get there. Like my youngest boy, Brooks, I mean, he wants to play basketball. And that's his dream. And you know what? We'll fight through it. And if he gets there, great. But at the end of the day, I had a dream at 15. I was a rookie on the PGA Tour when I was 35. Took a long time.
Took 20 years.
Took 20 years of the grind, the odd jobs, the trying to make things work at home, everything you go through as a professional golfer. It took 20 years.
And as a man, I mean, you're trying to provide for your children.
Well, and that's the hardest part, right? I grew up in the era that the man was he was the breadwinner. I mean, he provided.
Yeah.
And that was okay. Not that the wife stayed at home. None of that bullshit. It was the man provided.
Yeah.
I mean, my mom worked the whole time I was growing up, all the way, and still does. Mm-hmm. So it's not that the wife should stay at home, but I should be the one that takes care of my family, no matter what.
100%.
And 20 years of the ebb and flows of, doing really well and doing not so well, and doing really well and doing not so well, finally came to fruition when I was 35 years old.
We live in a world now where everything's right here, right now. You got to have it right here, right now, right here, right now.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way, dude.
No, it doesn't. And it's, it's not, And it's not for the faint-hearted either.
Mm-mm.
You know, when you want something, generally, it's going to beat you up until you get it.
Yeah.
Generally.
But again, if you don't have that we can call it whatever you want.
Yeah.
If you don't have that driving force, boy, it makes it tough.
No, it does. I mean, there was, like I said, I mentioned earlier, I mean, you mentioned Kelly. I mean, there were so many players that physically and the talent level was probably more than mine, to be fair. And I recognize that 100%. But I don't know that they had the same heart I had to get to where I wanted to be.
You're hitting it right on the head, man. That's where I wanted to. That's the point
I think
of
that
what
was
I've
the
been
difference.
saying.
Yeah. No, and I know that. I mean, it's but they had all the physical attributes to do it. And Kelly won multiple times at lots of levels.
Mm-hmm.
He never actually got to win on the nationwide tour. He came close so many times.
Yeah.
Again, that's that door situation. Is can you bust through it when it goes? And it's not a knock on Kelly whatsoever.
No,
because
he was very successful.
Very successful. Played on tour just like I did. He did a lot of great things.
Yep.
And there's so many people like that, like Kelly, that had he, I'll say this forever. Had Kelly won on the nationwide tour back then, when he had those chances to, his life would be different right now.
Oh, for sure.
Because he ended up losing his status on the nationwide tour after 2 years of playing very well. And there not towards the end, but when he started finally coming, when he moved out here, had he won, he would have had past champion status, as I did, to be able to keep driving and keep going.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't have that opportunity. He had played well, but he didn't have the past champion that gives you 10 extra years, let's say, after you win, to be able to maybe play in a few events, to compete, to still keep your status, however you want to look at it. He didn't have that ability. I think had he had that, he wouldn't have been out. He wouldn't have moved to Midland in 2014, and then he wouldn't be doing what he is today. Does that make sense?
100%.
So it's one of those things that, everything happens for a reason. I firmly believe that.
Absolutely.
I mean, making it on tour and getting my ass kicked on tour my rookie year, it happened for a reason. I don't like it. I don't know what all went wrong with the whole situation, but I'm grateful for the opportunity.
I do. And you're such a competitor that, you're not going to, I've never heard one time you use this as an excuse, but bro, that beautiful Bertha 5-iron that we stobbed, that we had to hit on that hole, right? I mean, it did go over like you said it would, but I mean, dude, to pull a 5-iron in that situation and hit it the way you did, I mean, that tells
but you got to, it wasn't,
you had to switch all that, bro.
It wasn't just the long irons. It was the wedges. It was the irons.
You had the AP2s.
So I had Callaway Mac Daddy wedges.
Yeah.
Square grooves. AP2 irons, Callaway Big Berthas, and the 4, 5, and 6 iron that were square grooved.
And for those that don't know, those were the OG AP2s.
Yeah. Oh, the original, very first set.
And if Turner and I could find him something like that was legal, he'd probably play him.
Yeah.
We've been searching for
that's
him.
That's the search. And so, and then I had a TaylorMade driver, and the only thing I didn't change was my driver and putter. Now, that was my tools but my wedges were also, and my long irons, because I wasn't a long hitter, I was hitting a lot of long irons.
And you're one of the best wedge players to this day there is.
Yeah, but you change now from a square groove at the time to where I could hit this thing low and zip it to now the ball's kind of popping up the face and kind of riding it. And not now, but this was even in 10 when the groove changed.
Oh, yeah.
Like my whole window's changed.
Oh, yeah. And people don't remember this, man. I remember it vividly. I remember when you guys were forced to change wedges, especially, man.
Mm-hmm.
And you saw it a million times on tour. Guys would get in a slightly wet rough or something
zingers.
Like that and just
Zingers. Yeah, hit zingers. Yeah.
They just
couldn't hit the same shots.
That's right.
And, I struggled. Again, I struggled because I was trying to find something that was relatively the same as what I was hitting with a different groove. And it was never going to happen.
Yeah, but here's the thing that people don't know about your situation. It was unique in the sense that what'd you have? A month, maybe?
Well, that was the other kicker. I had a couple of months But here's the kicker to it all is like every manufacturer was coming at me wanting to do this, wanting to do that,
Right.
which was fine, right?
Yeah, it's great.
Whatever, it's great. But since the groove had changed so fast, they didn't have any clubs to send me. Like Callaway contacted me and said, hey, we want to give you X. We want you to be a Callaway staffer. Oh, but by the way, you get one set of irons to try. One. Because they had screwed up the factory in Japan or whatever had happened, and they could only allot tour players one set of irons to try.
So it better be right.
So it better be good.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way for me to, I don't want to jeopardize my career basically for that. And it's not their fault. They got caught with their pants down just like everybody else did. Everybody
did. Yeah.
There was no clubs because the groove went from a square to a V and nobody had nobody had any product. And this was in like October of November. And I'm like, what the hell am I going to do?
Yeah.
I have no long irons. I have no short irons. I have no wedges. I have a driver and a putter and a golf ball.
And by the way, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the story goes this way. I mean, you're prepping to go to your first event, the Sony, I believe, right?
Mm-hmm. Sony Open.
And that's in January?
That was in January.
Yeah. We're prepping to go to that, and you get a call from the agent, hey, bud, by the way, your whole bag's done.
Yeah.
You got to switch.
Done. I had sent everything to the USGA to test.
Yeah.
And it finally came back and it was negative Ghost Rider.
Well, all that said, dude, I know you've got some things you got to do, but we got to get you going. But dude, all of that said, what an amazing story. What an amazing career.
Yeah, it was fun. I had a good time. I mean,
by the
hopefully
way,
I got a second run coming.
That's right. We're still working.
We're still working for Grandpa Tour.
And you got
this fall.
You got a guy right here in front of you that believes that you can do it. That's for darn sure.
We're going to give it hell, I can assure you.
Yeah.
Whether it happens or not, we're going to give it hell.
I know that's true, man. Well, brother, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, dude. Thanks for having me.
I'm so glad we got to do this. And I want to have you on again when we make, as you called it, the Grandpa Tour. But
yeah,
yeah,
we'll do it again.
Let's do it again.
Yeah.
I want to hear more about the PGA Tour. I'm sure these folks will want to hear more about some of your stories, man. There's some good ones.
There's some good stories. Other than mine, there's some great stories.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thanks so much.
Yeah, dude.
Clinton?
Yeah. Are you gonna send us out? Because you're way better at that.
Sure. Thanks for joining us. Jared, thanks for being on here. It was such a great episode, great conversation. These episodes air every Friday night at 9 p.m. And be sure to check us out, ghqcrew.com. Subscribe to the podcast. Stay up to date. Hit the bell for notifications, and we will see you on the next one. Have a great evening.